So we'll continue on with our node server here. So here I've added a new path for an HTML page. So set if the path is equal to /about.html, we're going to send back a HTML document. And it's a little bit crazy town because it's all in one line, so maybe we'll just split it up. God damn. You can indent the HTML if you really want. Doesn't really matter. Oops. And so we need to do the same thing that we did for the JSON, which is send back the correct content type. So I'm going to copy those 3 lines from the one down here for postcode. And then the content type is going to be, anybody know what the HTML content type is? And let's throw it into Google. Here you go. Text/HTML. So if it's about.html, we're going to say it's HTML and send back the actual document. And I'm just using the backticks here because it lets me do multi-line strings. And so if I visit about.html, you get back this. Just about and then h1. So you could add more if you want. This is a paragraph. And there you get that. So yeah, about.html goes to there, but the .html is just, it's aesthetic. It's completely up to us what we put there. So having .html on all URLs is a bit old school, so you could just make it /about. And so if I go .html, it's not going to be, it's going to say back at you because it's going to get all the way down to the cells. And if I just do /about, it's going to give us that page. So this is like what Rails does for us. So if we plonk this in a little HTTP thing here, you'll see the raw response back with the content type, text HTML, and the actual body of the HTML.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's add another route for the postcode. And this time I'm going to make it say /postcode/3001. Hopefully that's interesting. Might be just Melbourne, that one. Find out. That's not very interesting. It's 3020. Albion Sunshine. Let's go with that. So we're going to make it /postcode/3020. So this is going to be an array, so I have to put square brackets here, but having to fiddle with the .json in this raw format is just annoying. Like, I don't want to have to deal with that. You know, one little syntax error, it's going to throw me off. So in JavaScript, you have this thing called JSON, and then it's got a function or a method called stringify. And it takes JavaScript values, so like an object, an array, numbers, strings and stuff, and turns it into this JSON formatted string. So we can use that instead, json.stringify. And that's just built in, you don't have to require that in. So json.stringify, and then I'm going to get rid of these backticks, and we're just going to pass along actual data. So we're going to pass back an array. The first thing is going to be this Albion, and next one's going to be Sunshine. And you'll note that we don't need to do .json in the URL. The browser knows what type it is by this content type header. That's the only way that it knows. You could put .txt or .jpeg or anything like that. It's not going to affect it. It's going to be affected by this thing here. So if I visit /postcode/3020 in my app, I'm going to get back that, and you can see it's been picked up by the JSON formatter. And if I look at it in raw format, it's like that. So json.stringify by default takes away any optional white space, which is nice because it just saves the amount of download, basically. So the other alternative is to plonk it in here. $30.20. Look at the raw requests, and okay, I think this JSON, plugin must format the JSON for us, which is a bit deceiving, but the actual raw bytes look like this, with no new lines and stuff.
Is the, if we do this with the stringify thing, do we have the quotes around the keys?
No.
So it's just optional now?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, this is just JavaScript. And in JavaScript, the quotes around the keys is optional. It's also, I can use single quotes if I really want.
So you have to use double quotes in straight JavaScript.
In JSON expects double quotes. Yep. So I can format this to be more like JavaScripty, so take away the quotes from the keys. But the .stringify method will add that back in when it turns it into this formatted text that is sent back. Oh, whoa. So this is data being passed here. So it's the result of that data. So if I said 3020 plus 40, I'm not going to see that in my JSON response. I'm going to see the result of 3020 plus 40. So 3060. So it's not some sort of magic thing that says turn this into, it's seen as a value. It doesn't sort of just magically look at the source code.
So you said that it doesn't do math, it just sees it as
It just takes that as a value, like taking a hash in Ruby or an array in Ruby. So if we go to something that doesn't exist, currently we get this thing back at you. And if you look at the response code, it's a bit confusing because it's 200. It's saying it's all good, like that. But what that technically should be is 404. So we'll update that. So this is our routing, a very advanced routing system called a bunch of if statements. And then so when we get down to the else here, that's where we haven't hit a route that we know about. So that's the appropriate spot to send back 404. So I'm going to send back 404 with the write head method. And then we can say page not found as well as the actual message. So now if I go to something that doesn't exist, it says page not found. And more than that, the status code here is going to be 404. So this is basically what every web server in the world does. It's got some sort of fallback, some sort of else or whatever mechanism that it uses for routing. And so if it doesn't know what you're talking about, it will send back a response like this. You can't send back nothing because then we'll just get that infinite loop where the browser is just waiting for something to come back. We need to send back something. So So if we had a lot of, let's just add in like another postcode. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. Code's getting a bit unwieldy. Let's see if 3021 is something interesting. Kings Park, Kielba, St. Albans. Oh, I can't be stuffed. There we go. It's easier for someone lazy like me. So just 2 to add. So it's going to be Deer Park East. And deer. There seems to be some sort of deer fetish, but
Or a thing.
yeah. So you can see it's the same sort of thing as before. So we just go if it's slash postcode 3020, it's application.json, and then we send back Albion Sunshine. 3022 application JSON, JSON.stringify with dear parties and RDIR. So let's send back. Let's check that out. There we go. If you make a typo, so some of you might make a typo, let's just introduce that. Let's see what happens. We're going to get nothing. The site can't be reached. Localhost refused to connect. And we're going to get an error here. Red text from NodeMon. And we're going to get something like this, unexpected token, blah, 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 blah. So VS Code is quite good because it's got almost like spell checking. Puts a little squiggly line where there's an issue. So you can see one here. But the issue is the line before. I just forgot the closing curly brace. So you can imagine if we added another postcode, there's going to be a lot of repetition here. So this is where it might be good to add a function that's going to do a lot of this boilerplate for us. So you can see the boilerplate is this stuff. It's the same every time, and the stringify. And so maybe it's a function that accepts the response as one argument, and then the second argument is going to be the JSON object that we want to send back. And that function is going to do the hard work of saying write head and JSON.stringify. So I'm going to add that right at the top here. Actually, let's jump straight to putting it in a file. So I'm going to create a new utils file that's going to live alongside my server.js.
Is this in your root directory or?
Yep,
Oh,
of this wherever you yarn and knitted.
oh, okay.
So what I said, I think I said send JSON. And so once you're in this file, we're going to create a new function called send JSON. And it's going to get the 2 bits that we need to do to send back some JSON. So we need a response to talk to, and we've got the let's call it object that we want to send across. And so I could write all this stuff out that I need, response dot write head and so forth. Or I could just choose one of these, copy it, and paste it in. And then finds the bit that's going to be the variable bit. So that's the thing that's being passed to JSON.stringify. And so I don't want it to be this hard-coded data. I want it to be this object that we're going to pass in as the second argument here. So we need the response because we need to talk to it. We say write head and .ends, and then we need the object that we're going to send across. Oh, I can boost the font size. And I'll just keep it there for a moment. If you want some code to refer to, I've got a similar example up here on GitHub. So what do we do to get this function available outside of this file? Yep, export thingy. And anyone remember what's another name for a file in Node, sort of conceptually?
Module.
Yep, module. And then to export it. Yep, dot exports plural. You can see I'm getting some auto completion here. one of the mistakes I used to always make when I was first doing Node.js was always forget that S, but it's plural. And then that's going to equal, and then we just list the functions that we want to export out. So that's the send JSON function.
So clearly you can write a big module with lots of functions and only export the external ones, like others will use an
Yep.
internal.
Yep. So you can sort of have like private methods,
Yeah.
sort of here. Yep. Exactly. So does everyone have this file complete? Yeah. With the module.export in VS Code. Maybe there's is there any squiggly red lines? Any typos? I'm not sure. Does anyone else getting the autocomplete? Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. So we want to use this function in our server.js. So we're going to require in that stuff from the utils, and we want to grab this function that we've exported out, send JSON. So we're going to say const, and then curly braces send JSON. It's like the opposite. Equals, and then the require, and the path to that particular file. And VS Code's gotten so good that it even auto-completes folders and files for me. So you might be able to get that as well. So const curly brace send JSON and curly brace equals require utils. So now this send JSON function is available in this file. And so we're going to refactor some of this code. So I'm going to come down to the postcode 3020 bit. And then I'm going to refactor this. So I just say send JSON. And the first thing is that response object. And then the second thing is the actual JSON that I want to send back. So I'm going to copy and paste this array into there like so. Send JSON to this response with this data. And then that refactoring is complete. So I can remove the other lines and I'm just left with that. And so I think you would agree that that's much more readable than the longer way.
Why do we need to pass through response?
Yep. So we need to pass through the response because that's the thing that we end up talking to. So there could be several requests going on at once. So the server needs to keep track of that in an object to know back which response that we're actually talking about. There's not just some sort of generic response thing that's going, like there's not just some sort of generic like, okay, when one user is using the server, then no other user can use the server, which is what you'd do if you say did something like this. How do you know which response we're talking about? We need to keep track of that in some way. So Node.js allows multiple things to be going on at once. And you can also see this is we have to say response dot, so we need to pass it along so we can write that. So let's see if the 3020 still works. And there we go. So that refactor is complete. And then I can do the same for the other postcode here, 3022. And then we can check if that works as well. Yep.
What do you call a function that you sort of pull out that you can reuse like that? Is there a name for it, or shared function, or generic function?
Isn't that
Utility?
function by definition?
Yeah. What's that?
Isn't that what a function is by definition? It's something to use over and over again.
I guess so. Yeah. There's no real specific name for it. It's just if you put it in, if you publish it as like a gem, you'd say like a library function. It's just it's just a way of. Oh yeah, it literally just is just a function. Yeah, or if it sort of fits utils, utility function.
Okay, sure. Here you go. You
So now just add a route for 3021. You can use the postcode api.com.au to look those suburbs up. So yeah, send back all four.
What was the URL again? Sorry for this code.
It's in challenges.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that's what I kept doing. Like, yeah, I'm still idiot. She's missed the turn. Leave it there. No, it's nice. Wait,
And then if you get that, then I want you to create a function that's going to be send HTML. It'll work something like that'll actually make it even easier. All I have to do is just write my H1 and P, and I'll surround it with this other stuff and set the content type. Oh, mine's just gone black.